Welcome to Whaler Talk, hosted by the Hartford Whalers Booster Club. My name is Jerry Irwin. I'm here with Peter Hindle from the Examiner.com and Sean Irwin of the Hartford Whalers Booster Club. Over the last couple days, it's been a trying time for Hartford hockey. It's been announced by Jeff Jacobs about some financial troubles Howard Baldwin and the Connecticut Whale, as well as Whaler Sports and Entertainment, are up against because of the lease agreement with the city of Hartford and the state of Connecticut. Peter, what have you heard about this?
Well, it's true that Jeff Jacobs has said that Howard is having some trouble with the lease. He pays the highest rent of any AHL team. It's about 2.5 times the average, as he told us on the show. And apparently in the article it describes that Howard is getting no response at all from the state government or local officials, or even from AEG and Chuck Steeben, who runs the XL Center. So, there's definitely some big hurdles for WSE in the future, and, you can kind of say that it's not good for Hartford hockey right now.
It really, when you get into the initial expense of the Whale Bowl, that was a major problem when it came to the expense of snow removal.
Do you think that was the start of kind of the sour output that Hartford hockey would have to face from that point? Because it started there where the amount that they had to pay all of a sudden jumped really quickly. And then I think they went in the hole after that, and they just couldn't get out. But I don't think it's mainly their issue either. I think they're getting backlash, and they're getting a lot of cold shoulders, and they have to dish out more money because people don't agree with what they're doing, type of thing. So I think that's a main reason why this is that much. If they appreciated Hartford hockey, as all of our viewers do, then they would let the lease be lower, and they wouldn't let them have almost a $25,000 lease a night, whereas some places pay. I think Manchester pays 17. The average one's like 9,000.
9,000 down in Virginia with the Admirals.
Oh, okay.
Which is that's just absurd that they have to pay that.
What's
some more of the controversy though that's been going on Facebook and in the current and just around the web, because there's been a lot of talk and a lot of I don't really know how to put it.
I would say
chaos,
it's not so much the controversy. It's what's there was a response by Howard Baldwin Jr. and I thought it was justified in what's been said about the Baldwins and about what they've done in the city. I have nothing but the utmost respect for the Baldwins and what they've done in their 35 plus years of hockey in Hartford. When you get into paying that amount of money per night to get a club on the ice with a very small slice of the pie for revenue from the concessions to the parking, it's very hard for you to succeed in an economy like we have now. You have
what exactly did this all kind of start?
Last night I was reading a couple posts in social media about yesterday afternoon, or yesterday on Tuesday, Jeff Jacobs had quoted Whaler Sports as saying, they needed more support from the local officials as well as the state when it came to a new lease that has to be developed in 30 to 45 days. Howard Baldwin Sr. was on the show with us last week, and he told us how difficult it has been, and this was just a culmination of that when he was frustrated that they were not given the respect that other people were given. And when you get into the partnerships, it is a local thing and a state thing with regard to the lease. The state of Connecticut's involved, the city of Hartford's involved. Peter, what have you seen when it comes to the downtown area with business?
Actually there's a lot going on in the business, all of it pretty much bad news. There's on Asylum Street, there's the Asylum Caf and Tapas restaurant. They're right next to each other. They're directly across from the XL Center. Both are gone. Upper on the Rocks, which is a 3-story bar on the corner of Allen and Union Square, they're in foreclosure. The Hartford Theater Works, which is just 2 blocks from the XL, they just put it in the current that they're under a huge deficit. And Howard has a unique situation where he's only making money from revenue ticket sales, and 8% of his ticket sales go to AEG. Now, we all know that they have a lot of skyboxes and club seats. Howard is only can only sell 8 of those boxes and 75 of those seats. So really, AEG's just got a very big piece of the pie.
And that's also a direct result of the previous lease that was agreed to, which was, I believe, a Northland agreement along with AEG.
Right.
So it was a sweet deal if everything came together.
Right.
Howard walked into this, Whaler Sports and Entertainment came into this rebranding and that whole objective, and all of a sudden it just, one thing came to the other with regard to expenses. We're not like we're bashing either side. We're not saying they're having it's Whaler Sports and Entertainment, they don't have enough money, or AEG is really just jam it down their throats and anything. We see the potential that Hartford has for a hockey team, and whether or not it comes, we want Hartford to succeed, and that is our main goal, I guess, on the show. We just want to see Hartford back where it used to be. Oh, but you guys, what are some of the numbers? What's the population density in Hartford and in the area? In the 17 square miles that Hartford has, there's 121,000 people, which is actually, that's a relatively small city, yet with a very large population for that area. The metro area, which is about 40 miles, holds about 2 million people, and that's a pretty big sum to carry behind your back, and you're only getting 200,000 fans out to hockey games. Now, on regards to everything at the XL Center, you're looking almost to 1 million to that whole metro area comes to that area. You lose 200,000 of that. Now, it's a small percentage, but that's also $10 million you're losing without AHL hockey there, which may happen if they don't get the lease. And when they don't get the lease, Whaler Sports and Entertainment leaves, Rangers can potentially leave, and Hartford is left without a hockey team. And that just shows how vital it is. We have to make sure someone gets into either Whaler Sports and Entertainment, another investor, someone, to make sure hockey stays in Hartford, because even though it's not a big part of their revenue or their attendance, it's a very big part. It's another reason to come downtown to enjoy the city. And when we get into when the Whalers left back in '97, what was the number? It was like $75 million a year that the city was losing out on because of no NHL hockey. And it continued to grow from that point, not just 75 million. 75 million was the immediate impact. It grew to almost 100 million at some points, because then people who had stayed and thought they could weather the storm have now lost. Are now gone. Tapa's Asylum Cafe, they've held on for a while, but now they have to go. And I think what we're trying to say to all of you out there is really write to your representatives, write to your, well, not representatives, but the mayors, the governor, and say to them, we need this lease to make sure that we stay with Hartford. Hartford stays, in our minds, number one, and it continues to grow. It's a city that's just ready to go, and we need to find a way, and you guys need to help us to preserve Hartford hockey. And that's really what it comes down to. When we get into the lease agreement, Whaler Sports and Entertainment has to get this lease in 30 to 45 days. It is imperative that if you are part of the solution, not part of the problem, there's many people out there saying, oh, get lost Howard Baldwin, get lost Whaler Sports and Entertainment. Remember, if the Whaler Sports and Entertainment crew was not here, it was clearly stated in the paper today that hockey would not be in Hartford because of the lease would not be renewed with the Rangers. And we need to, as a Whaler Nation, write to the mayor and to the governor and let them know how passionate we are about Hartford hockey. In our second half of this show, we're going to have the senior vice president of business operations, Marc Bolland. And when we come back from a break, we'll be more than happy to entertain you with his answers and questions on this.
Check in.
Welcome back to Whaler Talk, hosted by the Hartford Whalers Booster Club. Peter Hindle from theexaminer.com and Sean Irwin, Hartford Whalers Booster Club member. And like I promised, we have a special guest tonight. Is Marc Bolland, who's the senior vice president with Whaler Sports and Entertainment Business Operations. Good evening to you, Marc.
Oh, good evening. It's great to be here. I appreciate all the support you you guys have given us, not only on television, Peter, of course, on the internet, and Jerry hounding me by phone for various things to help promote and boost Hartford hockey. So we appreciate it very, very much, and thanks for having me on.
Oh, you're very welcome, and we appreciate what you and Howard Jr. and Whaler Sports Entertainment has kept alive here in Hartford with the rebranding of the Wolfpack to the Connecticut Whale, brought in some extra people. Your history with Howard and the Hartford Whalers, when did that all start?
Well, really, it started from day one of the Whalers franchise. As a 10-year-old kid in Massachusetts, I actually saw the very first Whaler game in 1972, the WHA Whalers versus the Philadelphia Blazers. I was a big fan of the team all the way through, and when I was in college, I was lucky enough to get an internship opportunity with the Whalers in 84, 85, and then I was hired in the public relations department full-time after that, and was here for the better part of 7 years. And the glory years of the mid-'80s, when the team reached its apex on the ice, and that, of course, was the time in which Howard was here. And so we got to know each other then, and when Howard took over the Penguins, went out there with him. And then a couple of, 2009, September, I got a phone call from Hollywood, California, and figuring it could only be one person. And, of course, it was Howard. And knew he had something up his sleeve, and he just asked me if I wanted to try to come down here and revive that Whaler brand and the excitement of Hartford hockey, which is something I was very, very willing to do. I used to love coming down here. Even in high school, I would have, my mom would drive my friends and I down. Rather than going to see the Boston Bruins, we'd come down here and watch the WHA Whalers. And the excitement at that time was very, very exciting. New team in town. And the excitement of the fans was what you'll always remember. They did 10,507 people capacity in that original Hartford Civic Center, and that place was packed regularly. And we, as an employee, I saw it packed regularly during the mid-'80s, and we know there's something there. We know there's a rich tradition here. We know there's something here. It's a lot of work to get back there again, but we're gonna keep on pushing.
That's awesome.
Do you still, I guess, I mean, interrupt, but still feel that tradition when you rebranded the team, and that night you got 12,000 there, and when you get those big turnouts, do you still feel that excitement that was once there? Do you feel that it's still within Hartford?
Well, that's an interesting question. Sometimes I have. The Summerfest we had in 2010 at Rentschler Field was just insane. It was basically our coming out party, and it was incredible. The Whaler fans, the emotion that we had 27 players there who stayed there for 5 hours signing autographs. Certainly rebranding night with a large crowd and a very enthusiastic crowd, and sometimes emotional crowd that night. On those nights and those days, you definitely have that feeling again, like it's here. However, there are some times when you realize that things may not be what they once were as far as the hockey tradition in Hartford. We had a March 10th Hall of Fame night, which was, we had obviously Brian Leach and Verbeek and Michael Ute, Blaine Stout, et cetera, et cetera. A great night by all standards. The inductees were happy and thrilled to come back to Hartford. The fans who were here were very enthused, but the numbers weren't what you would have expected. There were 6,000 people in the seats when I would have bet anything that we would have had 10,000 and above. So we can't underestimate the amount of damage that was done to the market, particularly in the 3 to 4 years preceding our takeover. This thing, at the end of the Wolfpack era, not fixing blame on anybody, but the hockey enthusiasm, the enthusiasm for pro hockey at least, plummeted to very, very deep depths during that stretch, and the process of bringing it back has been a lot of work. You see glimpses of it. We had a crowd early this year of 11,000 a few weeks ago, January 28th. We had 9,000 plus on February 18th, and then we head into the Hall of Fame night where it was less than expected. So there are glimpses, but it's not consistent, not sustained, and we have to keep working to get the word out.
Now with that, this is the year of the lease that it has to get done, and what has to be done by who, and who are the players that are involved in this lease?
I think I try to keep it very, very simple when I talk to people in our offices, when Howard and I talk about it. We can talk about the state, we can talk about the city, we can talk about a number of different entities, but in the end, right now, the key factor is AEG and the Connecticut Whale have to come to an accord on a rent that is reasonable for us to continue, or anybody to continue. There is not an entity. There's a reason why, for example, MSG sold off the rights to the team, or the marketing rights to the team, to AEG, and there's a reason why AEG was very anxious to sell the rights to Howard Baldwin. The reason is they were losing a lot of money. Mm-hmm. Very expensive to play in Hartford, Connecticut at this point. And Howard, as he readily admits in a recent article with Jeff Jacobs in the Hartford Current, just said, hey, he signed the deal, it's his responsibility. But with that said, we still have by far and away, not even close, the highest rent in the American Hockey League, and it's no longer sustainable, for us to withstand that. It's a rent that in real dollar amounts, and I know you guys have talked about it earlier in the show, but it's essentially a $25,000 a game lease, and with that we get zero concessions, and not a whole lot of any other part of that building. And on a night like the other night, for example, the Hall of Fame night, we had 6,000 people in the stands, but I can tell you that the Coliseum Club upstairs was completely sold out for dinner even at 5 o'clock at night. Wow. The place was jammed up there.
That's awesome.
And that revenue, almost 100% of that goes back to the building. That's just a small example. So I'm not blaming the building for making a great deal for themselves. Our point right now is we, or could anyone else, continue under those terms that we currently have, and we just need a little bit of help. We just want to get on par with the rest of the league.
Well, it's interesting. You talk about this article that came out with Jeff Jacobs today, and the feedback from the people that read that article was absolutely phenomenal. Peter, you can comment on what you saw.
Yeah. I mean, I do a lot of work moderating the Hartford Whalers message board, and we have about a little over 400 active users on that, but there's over several thousand hits a day where people are just reading what we're writing, and we're really trying to keep track of how things are going, and we want to make sure we're accurate. Like, for instance, you just mentioned that AEG sold Howard the marketing rights to the team. Most fans were under the impression that MSG sold the rights to Howard, but that's not the case,
right?
As you said. So, in those feedback in those articles, we noticed a lot of people showing support and a lot of people catching on to things that they were not aware of. This is a traditional market, I believe, and we're coming up on 40 years in hockey, and I do believe that once people get informed more, they're going to understand more, and they're going to see that they have a reason to fight for something that they could possibly show up more. I saw a lot of good feedback on it. I also saw Howard Jr. explain a few things about our state local officials who are not really too interested in providing any help, and that's kind of discouraging. But we've been writing to the mayor and to the governor, and we're hoping that can continue and create some kind of movement to help WSC out.
No doubt, we appreciate it, and we have appreciated it since day one. It's very heartening. I start my day out every day at 5 o'clock in the morning, and you're on Facebook, you're on the message boards, and it's great to see the positive support. I think people can, on a very human level, they can identify with the situation. Howard, who obviously I'm with every day and have been since this thing started, is just completely coming from the heart, and I think people can sense that. He wants this thing to succeed. He had the best days of his life in Hartford, Connecticut. It's where he met his wife, and it's he created the Whalers, literally created the Whalers at the age of 29, and has a strong emotional bond to the brand, to the marketplace, and to the people here. I think people can sense that, and again, it's something that people can relate to. It's very, very simple. It's just a matter of at some point in our lives, we've all, paid rent or had some type of situation that became, intolerable, and we had to, fight to get the situation rectified. And that's the situation we're in. It's very, very simple. And AEG has done a great job, tactically. They help us out tremendously in the arena. They're good people. It's nothing adversarial. It's just basic dollars and cents, non-emotional numbers. That is, if we look at it now, and we cannot, play hockey here long term under these conditions. And the point I always make is Howard's the only person who stepped up when AEG wanted to unload their interests in the team. Howard is the one and only who would have stepped up in that situation. And behind him, there's a line of zero waiting to come in and assume this thing. He's the best person to spearhead this thing. He's the one with the history. He's the one with the emotional involvement, and we're fully committed as a company. We, unlike AEG, they had many different things to sell, the circus and tractor pulls and concerts and things like that. We're all hockey all the time, and that's why we're here. It's just a matter of getting equitable rent, and I think I'm confident that will happen, and we'll move forward.
Excellent.
Well, I guess, do you ever feel as if you're up against a wall, I guess, with anyone, I guess AEG we'll take as an example. Do you feel like they're squeezing hockey out of Hartford and you're in danger, or is it, I guess there's no one to blame, but do you feel pressure from all sides, I guess, about having hockey in Hartford?
I think I don't see any upside for AEG or the state or the city to losing pro hockey in Hartford. Losing 40-plus nights a year and extinguishing the dream of returning to the National Hockey League at some point down the road. I think it's just one of those things where people have to, and you articulated earlier, be educated to the circumstances and understand the urgency. And I don't know if we've communicated the urgency enough. I think Howard's recent column with Jeff Jacobs probably took a few steps in a positive direction that way. But I feel like, I know Howard said in the article, and he feels that there's not been a lot of interest. The mayor has been excellent. He's been to games. He dropped the puck the other night. He's aware of what we're doing. But we haven't had a lot of feedback. Howard had the plan, his vision for downtown Hartford and the Excel Center and the hockey team, and it drew, if anything, apathy or a negative response from the state. So,
well, why do you think that was exactly? Why do you think it received kind of a sour taste in their mouth?
I have absolutely no idea.
Could it be the layoff, Mark?
Excuse me?
Could it have been the layoff with, like you said, that 3-year buffer there? Where is it because of that? Is it because there was not National Hockey League around? That we had the Wolfpack here, and no disrespect to the Wolfpack, we have hockey. Hockey is in Hartford. Do you think that might have been some of it?
Well, I think it's a valid point. I think that even in the corporate, we've had companies this year, Cigna, for example, Aetna, have really stepped up and helped us out tremendously as an example. But they're stepping up because of the Whaler brand, Howard's involvement, and the hope and the optimism that things are going to be going forward, not strictly as a minor league entity. I just feel like Hartford's a unique place in the world, hockey-wise, because it still has, in many ways, a major league mentality. There are a lot of people here, both corporately and politically, who grew up with the Whalers, identify with the National Hockey League, identify with Hartford being a major league city, and have a very difficult time supporting, after all of that success, supporting a minor league product. And the point is that you support this product to get to the next level again, but that's asking a lot of people. And so it's kind of a roundabout way of saying I would agree with that assessment that over the past, like I said, past several years prior to our takeover, there was the brand as it was described to us as we had come in, the brand of the Wolfpack was pretty much dead at that point.
Yeah, you brought up an interesting point, Mark, when you mentioned about how the attendance had been down for the March 10th. Now, the other thing that we've kind of noticed, and I just wanted to know if this is true, with the amount that you're paying out in the lease, your advertising has been kind of handicapped by that. Is that true?
It's absolutely true, and it's a factor that is good of you to point out and is worth mentioning. When you're allocating so much money to rent, just to the referee drops the puck and there's $25,000 gone each night. Obviously, you're unable to allocate money to other things, namely in this case promoting the team the way we would like to.
Right.
So it's absolutely a factor. We're doing a lot with a lot of guerrilla marketing, a lot of word of mouth, a lot of the internet, whatever, hardcore ticket selling, but we don't have, probably unlike just about every team that I can think of in our local area, we have almost zero presence in the market from an advertising standpoint, and that hurts.
Right.
But we've got to pay that rent.
Right.
And but that's another reason. I mean, that's probably right to the point of what we're talking about. For this thing to grow, we've got to advertise. We can't advertise when we're paying that much for rent.
And it's really surprising that the city hasn't stepped up to get really, not the city, I'm sorry, the state hasn't stepped in, because when you look at the 38 home games, and hopefully maybe we'll get 10 or 12 or 15 playoff games this year, that'd be great. The other question I had while I was mentioning that, do you guys have to pay the rent for playoff games?
Yes, we do.
You do? Okay.
Right.
And the other thing we were mentioning was, over 38 to 45, dates in the XL Center, and you're averaging, probably around 200,000 people come to see AHL hockey in the city, and they're paying for parking, they're paying for sodas, beers, merchandise, restaurants, and we figure that if the average AHL person drops $40 to $50 a night, I mean that's $10 or $12 million into the city. It's kind of surprising that AAG wouldn't notice that, or the state wouldn't notice that and say, hey, we need to get involved.
Yeah, I think again, it's just especially when you throw in the 10% amusement tax now, it's very beneficial for all parties. And when we look at the surrounding area, it's no secret that we've had restaurants going out of business, and the self-esteem of the city of Hartford right now is probably not at its highest level. And if you compounded that by sacrificing 40 additional dates that we provide every year, I think that has going back to what you were saying, it has a real negative ripple effect, and
Mark,
one that
Mark,
once it
Mark,
goes may not come back.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry to cut you off. We're at the end of the show. We are going to have to check you next time. We really appreciate you coming on with us.
Thank you very much, Mark.
Thank you for your support, and thanks for having me here.